Well, we have some good news today. As of the FAQ that Games Workshop dropped earlier, they've finally fixed the Dreadclaw drop pod, specifically the drop pod assault rule. Previously, it didn't have any allowance for the unit inside to disembark on the turn that it arrived. Normal drop pods have a rule that specifically says they can. This one didn't, so it had to follow the normal rules for transports that have arrived during from reserves, which is that the stuff inside can't get out. So that's been unfortunate for a while now, but it's finally been fixed. They've amended the drop pod rule for it, and you can now disembark immediately as it arrives. So this is really great. I'm a big fan of Dreadclaws. I love including them in my list if I can. They're one of my favourite units. Now, they are a bit pricey still, at 115 points. It's a bit pricey. It's, it takes a decent chunk out of your army, but for the impact they can give to the game, they're definitely worth it. And a lot of people don't expect to see them in a Chaos army. Since they're not in the Codex, sometimes I think people forget that they exist, but they do, and they're really good. Now, obviously one thing that you can do with these is put combat troops like Berserkers in. I'm a fan of putting Berserkers in these. I think I wouldn't, put all my Berserkers in them, but maybe one in addition to a couple of Rhinos full of Berserkers. It's pretty good because they can come down, right where you want them, behind the enemy lines, 9 inches away, and you can get a nice charge off. I think you could even do a turn 1 charge with these because I'm pretty sure that these drop pods can come down turn 1. So, that's nice. Now obviously again with the rule until now, this thing it's basically not really been worth taking. It hasn't really worked out because you had to sit inside for a turn, and these things are not built for taking that kind of firepower. They're essentially a Rhino. They've got about 10 wounds at toughness 7. They are not surviving the next round of fire, which meant that you really couldn't use them because anything you brought down would just, it'd be destroyed. And then the unit itself would be shot to death. So you couldn't put Berserkers in them or anything like that. And you couldn't really bring down elite units like Havocs or Chosen either to sort of blast things with their guns. It was just not viable to have this thing sitting there for a turn hoping nobody shoots it. But that's gone now, so you can put combat troops and Berserkers in it. But I'm going to show you my favourite thing to do with a Dreadclaw drop pod. If I just move this back a little bit, so you can still see it, hopefully. You've got it here. This is my favourite thing to do. It's a bit of a nasty combination. I did take it to a tournament a while ago. It did fairly well. I didn't do fairly well in the tournament at all, but this specific thing did do pretty well. So what I like to do is I like to take 2 units. Oh, the sword's broken, damn it. I like to take 2 units of Havocs with Reaper chain cannons. 2 units of Havocs with Reaper chain cannons. Can we see this on the screen? Yes, we can, just about, if I scoot them over a little bit. Because you can fit 10 models inside, so that's 2 Havoc squads with 4 Reaper chain cannons, that's 8 Reaper chain cannons. Now what I like to do in addition is bring down a Chaos Lord in either Terminator armour or with a jump pack. The Chaos Lord comes down, that's reroll 1s to hit, and what I like to do is take the Siege Master Warlord trait, because that will also give these Havocs reroll 1s to wound. And I also like to bring down a Terminator Sorcerer, or again a jump pack Sorcerer potentially. Doesn't really matter. The point is, he's here to cast probably Prescience, well definitely Prescience, and probably Delightful Agonies, because of course these are both Mark of Slanesh. That's the only mark you're going to go for. So that's what we're going to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to cast Prescience on one of these units. They're both, re-rolling 1s to hit and to wound because of the Chaos Lord. And then obviously you're going to spend your 2 CP and fire them a second time. Whichever unit was the buffed up unit, you're going to spend 2 CP and fire them a second time. This is absolutely brutal. I'm going to do a test roll with my nice Iron Warriors dice. And what we're going to do is we're going to just roll once, but I'm going to assume that we are shooting a unit of 30 Orc Boys with the new toughness 5, a unit of 10 Space Marines or Intercessors, just general 2 wound Space Marines, and an Imperial Knight / Lehman Russ style tank. So you've got 32 shots because you've got 8 shots each, so that's 16 shots, 32 shots. That's exactly the dice I've got here. They're hitting on 2s, of course, because we've been prescient. So we're going to assume that there's no minus to hit against the enemy. So we're hitting on 2s. I only got... Oh yes, see, these are my Imori's dice. I only got 1-1 there to reroll. Oh, it never works out, does it? Not quite a full house then. 35 hits. That's still okay. And then if we're talking about Space Marines, this is now going to be 2s to wound because we're of course using veterans. You would always use veterans in this situation. If we're talking toughness 5 orcs, this is now 3s instead of 4s. And if we're talking a toughness 8 tank like a Leman Russ or an Imperial Knight, this is now 4s because it would have been 5s with strength 5. It's now 4s. We're just going to roll once and see what happens. Okay, so I'll take out the 1s first because we're re-rolling these ones for Siege Master, the Wall of Traits Siege Master. So I've only got 3 1s, but that's okay. Let me re-roll these. Okay, so putting these down, we've got... Just want to make sure the camera can pick them up. We've got the 2s to wound. They're going to be for the Space Marines. We've got 3s to wound. They're going to work out for the Orcs. And then everything else, the 4s, 5s and 6s, this will be for the Knight / Leman Russ and everything. So I think what we'll do, oh, there's another 4+ there. So what, as you can see already, that's a pretty good spread of wounds right there. What we're going to do is we're going to roll these first, and then we'll roll the others. Well, in fact, right now I can already tell you that we've got 6, 12, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 wounds on the Orc boy squad. So that's essentially that many boys dead because it's -1, so they've got no 6+ armor save. So that's the vast majority of a 30-man Orc boy squad blown away with just this one salvo. And of course you're going to shoot this unit again, and you've still got the other unit to shoot, which is pretty crazy. So that's a load of Orcs just dead straight away. Pretty much the whole squad gone. You know, you're just going to have to deal with the knob pretty much and a couple stragglers. We'll roll these dice because luckily they've got the same wounds save now as the Space Marines will. So we'll roll these dice first. Get rid of these 3+ just for a moment. Roll these dice first, and they're going to fail on 4 up. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wounds. So whether this is a Leman Russ battle tank or a Imperial Knight, we've just sprayed down 10 wounds. That's pretty epic. That's pretty epic, I think. Again, keeping in mind you're going to fire this squad again, and you've got this other squad here. You know, this other squad here could easily finish off the wounded Leman Russ, probably even with some split firing if you just put 2 into it and 2 into something else. And you're going to be firing this squad again a second time. You will probably be able to finish off that night. You know, it's doable. I think I've done it in my games. You know, I've just done 10 wounds there. You could easily just shoot these guys again with a 2 CP and kill that knight, you know, most probably. And as far as the Space Marines are concerned, that's 7 wounds through on the Space Marines already. For the Space Marines, we then also need to roll the rest of these dice. That's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's another 7 wounds through on the Space Marine unit, which brings it to 14 wounds total on the Space Marine unit, which would be 7 dead, 7 out of 10. That's pretty damn good if we're talking about Space Marines or Intercessors or something like that. Just, you know, losing 7 out of 10 straight away, that is pretty damn good. And again, you're going to fire this unit a second time. You've got this second unit here to maybe do some split firing, you know, easily probably finish off those last 3 Marines. No problems. This is really great. It's I don't use it too often because it is pretty horrible, but it's definitely a fun thing to burst out on somebody. it's a lot of firepower. It's a lot of firepower to drop on somebody. And of course, you know, you're probably doing this in conjunction with obliterators, las cannon havocs, you know, plenty of other heavy guns. This is your sort of spray down anti-infantry weaponry. You know, you can easily now pack in some again, las cannon havocs or some obliterators, deep striking as well potentially. You know, you can really get. You've still got a lot of points left. These, I think, these are about 140 points, I think. So it's about 280 points, 395 points with the drop pod. A couple of characters, you know, it's a good sort of 600 point chunk, but it's definitely worth it. It's absolutely going to just hammer blow somebody's, you know, the whole flank of somebody's army. Because again, this is just firing it once. If we just assume that's going to happen again, you know, when we fire this unit a second time, absolutely brutal. And then you've got this unit as well. They're not hitting on 2s or wounding on 2s with veterans and things, but they're still going to be hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, and they're still getting re-roll 1s to the wound, you know, regardless of whether they're wounding on 2s or 3s or 4s. So they've still got the good re-roll 1s. So that, you know, they're by no means useless. They're still going to mow down a lot of stuff. Anyway, I just made this video because the drop pods are back on the menu now, and I'm happy to see it. I'm hopefully going to use it sometime. And, you know, if you thought this was a good tactic, then, you know, feel free to steal it and do it on somebody. It's going to be especially nasty against certain armies like Tyrannids. And, you know, so I will, you know, that's the tactics video for today. I will see you soon in another video where I'll keep going through probably the various tactics that I use in my games.